Breaking this afternoon, 4 people from the same family are arrested in connection with the Rhoden family massacre in Pike County.
Doctors and the family of Andrew Allen share an update this afternoon on his condition.
Plus, the death toll climbs in those California wildfires.
Simple things to tell your children that can keep them safe, those stories, and when a wintry mix may arrive. Yeah, again, I'm going to say, First at 4 is next.
You eat healthy, take statins, but still struggle to lower your LDL bad cholesterol. You also have heart disease and fear a heart attack or stroke could strike without warning, pulling you away from everything you love. Because with high LDL, your risk of a heart attack or stroke is real. Now you can reduce that risk with Repatha. Repatha plus a statin dramatically lowers your LDL bad cholesterol by 63% and is proven to significantly drop your risk of having a devastating heart attack or stroke.
Do not take Repatha if you're allergic to it. Repatha may cause serious allergic reactions. Signs include redness, severe rash or itching, swollen face or trouble breathing. Most common side effects include runny nose, sore throat, common cold symptoms, flu or flu-like symptoms, back pain, high blood sugar, and redness, pain, or bruising at the injection site.
Don't let a heart attack or stroke come between you and everything you love. Tell your doctor you're ready to lower your LDL and reduce your risk for real with Repatha.
Pay no more than $5 per month with the Repatha copay card.
Inside MS-13, tonight at 11 on Local 12 News. Breaking news alerts and the hour-by-hour forecast from the Weather Authority. This is Local 12 News.
Good afternoon, I'm Paula Toti.
And I'm Kyle Linsky. We have breaking news this afternoon out of Pike County.
4 members of one family are now charged in the murders of the Rhoden family. 47-year-old Billy Wagner III, 48-year-old Angela Wagner, 27-year-old George Wagner IV, and 26-year-old Edward Jake Wagner were arrested this afternoon. They are charged with planning and carrying out the murders. 8 members of the Rhoden family were all shot in their homes on April 22nd, 2016. And we are standing by for a news conference to announce details. They're expected to start any moment. Those details in Local 12's Anjanette Levy is live at the Pike County Sheriff's Office in Waverly, Ohio. Anjanette, quite a turn of events today.
Yeah, Paula, it's no surprise that the Wagner family have been arrested in this case. They have been on the radar for quite some time, well over a year. We first told you in 2017, it was May of 2017, that there was something going on. There was a search at the Wagner family property just over the Pike County line in Adams County. There were BCI agents there combing through their property after they had moved. The Wagner family actually moved to Alaska for a time. We got word several months ago that they had actually moved back to the Pike County area, and BCI agents, the Attorney General, would never really say why they were investigating. Oh, we want to turn over to the news conference now. You see Attorney General DeWine is coming out along with, but I guess they're just walking through, so let me continue. Okay, so let's go back to that, what I was saying. The Wagner family, false alarm there, the Wagner family was under suspicion for quite some time, and I'm going to tell you why they were. Jake Wagner is the youngest. He is the youngest son of Billy and Angela Wagner. Jake was actually in a relationship for a time with Hannah Rhoden, who was the daughter of Dana Rhoden and Christopher Rhoden, and there was a custody dispute between the two. Leonard Manley, who is the grandfather of Hannah Rhoden and also the father of Dana Rhoden, had told us back in 2017 that a few weeks before the murder, there was some type of altercation between the Wagners and Christopher Rhoden over custody of the child that Jake and Hannah shared. And I know this sounds very confusing, but I'm just kind of trying to tell you about this, how it unfolded back then. There was some information that led the Attorney General's office, the BCI agents, and the Pike County Sheriff's Office to then launch a search at the Wagner farm in Adams County after they had moved to Alaska. We saw them collecting things like shell casings and other items of evidence, but all of those search warrants and the search warrants returns have been filed in the court and were under seal. So we don't know what information led them there, but we do know that the Wagner family moved on to Alaska, then moved back, and BCI agents last summer put out a press release saying that they wanted some information about the Wagner family. They wanted to talk to people who had had business dealings with them. They were also interested in any firearms that the Wagner family had owned. We know that the people who were murdered back in 2016 were all shot to death. So obviously they had been under the radar, under the microscope for quite some time, and we're going to be waiting for that information, more information about the details of these arrests to come from the Attorney General and the Pike County Sheriff, as well as the Pike County Prosecutor. Paula and Kyle.
Well, Anjanette, and you really have those relationships down. That is a lot to keep track of. Let me ask you this. Do we have Anjanette still? Yes, do we have her? We do. Okay. If you can hear me, Anjanette, originally there was talk when the murders happened that there was a Mexican drug cartel, it was drug related. Do they think this is not the case anymore, that it is all over some kind of relationship between the Wagners and the Rhodens?
Well, you know, I think we might learn more about that. It was well known at the time that Christopher Rhoden had a marijuana grow operation, quite a large operation on his property. But we heard at the time that a lot of that Mexican drug cartel stuff, I had heard at least from people that I talked to, that it was kind of nonsense. Now, are we going to learn something different here today? That's quite possible, but we just don't know at this point. But I was told, you know, in the months following those rumors kind of swirling around out here, that was not believed to be related to this at all, that it may have stemmed from something else. And if you recall, you know, they've said over and over again, they believed that this was somebody who knew the Rhoden family. You know, it seemed like there was some effort to clean up the crime scene, and it seemed like the person would have to, or people would have to be familiar enough with the crime scene to do that cleanup and to get in there under the cover of darkness, because it was our understanding that Christopher Rhoden had a lot of tight security, surveillance cameras and things like that on his property. So obviously at this point, these are just allegations. Guilty until proven innocent and all of that. So we're going to have to just wait to hear what the Attorney General and the Pike County Sheriff have to say.
It's so chilling. It doesn't matter really what was the reason or who did it. It's so chilling when you think a whole family was murdered, and now to think that several family members could be the ones that did this. It just defies any kind of normal thinking in my mind. But yeah, we'll learn more.
Well, they're not really, I mean, the Wagners, I mean, there was a familial relationship there because Jake and Hannah had this relationship and they shared a child together, the young girl, but they weren't family members. And, you know, I mean, at least the other Wagner family members weren't family, and they had split up. They weren't together at the time that this happened. And another thing I think that's important to point out, when you say that this was chilling, there were small children in this house. There was an infant in the bed with his mother and father, or I can't remember if it was a girl or a boy, I'm getting my people mixed up, but there was an infant in the bed with the mother and father when these murders happened. I mean, I think there were children like covered in blood when they went into this, these homes, these trailer homes. So, I mean, this was some pretty sick stuff if you think about it, when you talk about people being murdered in the presence of children. But very interesting that those children were allowed to live, because, you know, they could have been witnesses. Obviously, a little baby's not going to, but some of the older children, you never know, could have been witnesses.
Well, it's captured the attention of the country. We're going to check back with you, Anjanette.
Such a disturbing story there.
Wow. Okay. Well, the story of Brody Allen that has touched the hearts of people in the tri-state and all over the world. The 2-year-old got to celebrate Christmas before he died of cancer last month.
Yeah, but now his big brother is fighting for his life after being hit by 2 cars. Just an awful story here. And today we got our first update from doctors and the Allen family. Brad Underwood is here with that progress report. Brad, so many people worrying about this young man right now.
And following his progress all over the world, Kyle, Andrew Allen is making some progress, but his injuries, they are very serious. The biggest concern at this point is the trauma to his brain. Doctors and nurses at UCMC have been working on him and watching him around the clock for the past 8 days. 2 of Andrew's doctors and his father, Todd Allen, gave us an update this afternoon on the condition and outlined what they've been able to do in recent days. Over the weekend, Andrew had made enough progress that he was finally able to have surgery on his legs. His kidneys are no longer on dialysis. The injuries to his heart and his lungs do remain.
They literally had minutes to save my son's life. And they did it. They did it in a way that I could never do. I could never imagine doing. They comforted my daughter and my son, who showed up on the scene afterwards.
He is alive today because of the quick actions taken by the EMS and the first responders from Coleraine Township. I think without their quick actions and getting him here to the Level 1 Trauma Center where he needed to be, I don't know that he would be with us today.
Andrew is still heavily sedated and breathing with the help of machines, but another sign of progress over the weekend, he opened his eyes a couple of times and he moved a finger on command. Still a long and honestly unknown road ahead for the Allen family, as they are again asking for your prayers to get them through this, like y'all did with 2-year-old Brody when he was fighting cancer. Kyle.
All right, Brad, thank you so much. I want to get now back to that Pike County news conference that's happening right now. We'll go ahead and send you there live.
Well, good afternoon. We promised that the day would come when arrests would be made in the Pike County massacres. Today is that day. Yesterday, a Pike County grand jury indicted 4 individuals for aggravated murder with death penalty specifications. George Billy Wagner III, his wife Angela Wagner, and their sons George Wagner IV and Edward Jake Wagner. After an extensive, thorough joint investigation by the Attorney General's Office, the Bureau of Criminal Investigation, as well as our Special Prosecution Section, and Pike County Sheriff Charles Reeder's office, these 4 individuals are now in custody for allegedly committing this heartless, ruthless, cold-blooded murder. These are the faces of the victims, an entire family and members of their extended family, massacred. Many of them were killed as they slept. They are Christopher Rhoden Sr., age 40. His ex-wife, Dana Manley Rhoden, age 37. Their children, Hannah Mae Rhoden, age 19. Christopher Rhoden Jr., age 16. Clarence Frankie Rhoden, age 20. And his fiancée, Hannah Hazel Gilly, age 20. Further, Christopher Rhoden's brother, Kenneth Rhoden, age 44. Their cousin, Gary Rhoden, age 38. All 8 victims were killed in cold blood. They were shot in their own homes. They were brutally and viciously executed. The killers knew the territory and meticulously planned these horrendous murders. The 8 victims left behind an extended grief-stricken family, including 4 young children. Thankfully, in their only show of mercy, the killers spared the 3 children at the scenes. Children then ages 3 years of age, 6 months, and 5 days. At the center of this case were members of one family whom we believe the evidence will show conspired together to kill these 8 people, 8 of their friends. 4 members of the Wagner family, a husband, a wife, their 2 adult sons, are all now facing numerous charges, including 8 counts of aggravated murder each, 1 count for each victim. The aggravated murder charges also include death penalty specifications for all 4 suspects. Now, because this is an open prosecution, we won't be able to say much about motive. but you'll see from the indictments that custody of that young child plays a role in this case. We believe that the Wagners conspired together to develop an elaborate plan to kill the 8 victims under the cover of darkness and then carefully cover up their tracks. We believe the evidence will show that the suspects spent months planning the crimes. They studied the victims' habits and their routines. They knew the layouts of their homes. They knew where they slept. And then after executing each victim, we believe the evidence will further show that the suspects tampered with the evidence, such as the victims' phones and the surveillance cameras on their properties. Now, as in all killings, even those that are methodically planned, mistakes are made. And it's our job to find those mistakes. We've been gathering evidence in this case for about 2.5 years. In July of this year, at the request of prosecutors with my office's Special Prosecution Section, along with the Pike County Prosecuting Attorney Rob Junk, a judge impaneled an investigative grand jury to meet regularly to examine all the evidence we had collected over the course of the investigation and further to gather additional evidence. This investigation began the day of the murders, and with investigators discovering the last piece of significant physical evidence on October 30th of this year. The examination of that evidence was completed a few days later on November 7th. This particular evidence, along with all the other pieces of this giant puzzle, all the other key evidence in this investigation, have led us to today's charges and arrests. In addition to aggravated murder, these 4 family members are also charged with a number of other offenses. They include conspiracy, engaging in a pattern of corrupt activity, aggravated burglary for allegedly breaking into the Rhoden's home to commit the crimes, tampering with evidence, unlawful possession of a dangerous ordinance, unauthorized use of property, interception of wire, oral, or electronic communications, and finally, obstruction of justice. The 4 suspects are also all facing charges of forgery for allegedly forging child custody documents. Two other people were also arrested today in conjunction with the cover-up of these crimes. And let me again emphasize, these 2 individuals were arrested in regard to the cover-up of these crimes. Angela's mother, Rita Newcomb, and Billy's mother, Frederica Wagner. The charges against these 2 suspects relate to their alleged actions to mislead our authorities. Let me just take a moment to thank everyone who's been involved in this investigation. Without question, this has been by far the longest, most complex, and labor-intensive investigation the Ohio Attorney General's office has ever undertaken. It's been the most sophisticated, the biggest operation BCI has ever undertaken. Our investigators, our analysts have lived this case, have lived it. It has been all-consuming for them. But each one of us pledged never to give up. And not as day has gone by that we've not thought about the Rhoden family, the Gilley families, and the Manley families. Our team of state and local investigators and prosecutors has been unconditionally dedicated to solving this case. They sacrificed time with their own families in pursuit of justice for the families of the victims. From the arrival of our BCI crime scene units on the morning of April 22nd, 2016, to now, we have never stopped working towards justice for the victims. And I asked my team to do an estimate, and this is all it really is, of the amount of time that was spent in this investigation. This would include the time of the Sheriff's Office. This would include the time of BCI. This would include our investigators. This would include our lab. And it was tens of thousands of hours.